Okay, hello and welcome to the Bracken Outdoors podcast. So I'm here with Asa today, back on the podcast. He's been on a few episodes before and really helped me out a lot with my business journey. So we thought we'd get together and record a Q&A podcast with some of your questions. So first of all, Asa, for those people who don't know you or might be interested in hearing what you've been up to lately, could you do a quick who's Asa and what have you got going on at the moment?
Yes, yeah, the elevator pitch. Yeah, I think it's been about a year since we've spoken, so a lot's changed as well. But yeah, I'm Asa. I run a business called Forest School Support, and I do forest school consultancy and mentorship for forest school practitioners and businesses that want to solve problems and develop their businesses and their forest schools, as it may be, if they're based in schools and things like that. And how I got into that was I did 10 years of doing bushcraft basically as a hobby and a little bit as work. And then I've done now, this is my sixth year delivering forest schools, a level three forest school leader. And last year I left my forest school job and lived in Norway for a year to pursue a project there. And I missed forest school so much that I started a little side hustle where I basically, from Norway, offered remote forest school consultancy and coaching. And I just put some feelers out to see if it would be something that people were interested in, just paying for my time and talking about things they had issues with. And from my first ever post, I got my first three customers. And then now it's spiraled to I run my own forest school group on Facebook called Forest School Assistance and Support, which is free to join and everything in there is free. And that's got 11,300 members now, which is insane to say. Yes, we're coming up on 2 years old and we're pushing 12,000 members. And I run, yeah, a business called Forest School Support. That's forestschoolsupport.com. And I offer various different things for helping practitioners wherever they're at. My kind of core customer is I work with qualified forest school leaders that want to grow in confidence and inspiration and feel more assured in their practice. But I also help people that are in the process of getting qualified knuckle down with their portfolios and crack their time management and their productivity because that is a big daunting task. So yeah, that's me. And left Norway in January 2025 and moved back to the UK, ended up settling in Cambridgeshire. And that's lovely because I was able to get back into the woods delivering forest school. So I deliver forest school 3 days a week, currently boots on the ground, and then the rest of the time I do the consultancy. So it's a really nice mix. And yeah, for the last year, I've tried to turn my forest school, what was a side hustle in Norway, into my main job now, and it's going pretty well. And this end of the year, I've been working on it all year amidst battling all kinds of different things and kind of dealing with the fallout from my last year in Norway. But yeah, I'm soon going to be launching a total remodel of my business. So I'm changing how I approach consultation rather than it being a one-to-one, one-off appointment that you book with me. It's going to be a 60-day mentorship that you can enroll in to improve your forest school and your practice. And for those that can't afford that, I'm launching a community. So you can pay monthly to join a community that has 3 to 4 live group sessions a month where you can get all your problems solved. And we have weekly sessions dealing with those big flashpoints like reflection, like planning, like health and safety, like, work, body doubling, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to launch that. And if you want to find out more about that, you could be in my Facebook group. That's the best place to see it. So that's my whole elevator pitch. I think that's me.
Yeah, I just want to give another plug for the Facebook group. It's genuinely the best quality interactive forest school Facebook group that I've found. And I'm part of a lot of different Facebook groups because I like to be helpful and I like to be seen as well. And no, the quality of conversation in the forest school assistance support is a credit to you and the other lovely people on there.
Yeah, there's so many lovely people. Like I've met so many people through that. Indeed, actually, the work that I'm doing now is with someone who has been a long time member of that group who kind of was just messaging me and said, "Oh, where are you moving back to in the UK?" And I said, "I'm coming to Burwell." And she's like, "That's only 20 minutes down the road from me." So it's a really nice community. And we're now at a point where it's self-sustaining. So I don't have very much time at the moment to reply to the posts on there, the questions people are asking. And when I do get time and I look, someone's already answered it and they've given a great answer. So it's just fantastic. Everyone is stepping up and doing their thing and getting involved, and it's just fantastic. Yeah, it's really good. It's a really good space.
Ah, cool. So, shall we get into the questions? So, like I said, put out a couple of calls on different Facebook groups, including the Forest School support group, and also sent it out to all of my mailing list and all that sort of stuff, and got four really good questions.
Excellent.
So we'll just dive in, and we'll probably bat it backwards and forwards and see whether we can crowdsource a good answer. So,
Yeah.
first one. Sharpening skills. How to gain sharpening skills, what kind of resources to look for. So I presume this means for sharpening knives and bill hooks
Mm.
and axes and all of that sort of stuff, because a sharp tool is a safe tool.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a really great question because this is one of the things that does get covered in the forest school training, but it's like a half hour to an hour. It's like, by the way, here's how you sharpen a tool, right on to the next thing.
Oh,
And
I
it's
got 10
yeah,
minutes. It was
yeah,
essentially these are the stones I use and you drag them across them and then that's done.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a tricky one to kind of yeah to understand kind of all the mechanics and the science. And there's so many different tools you can use and stones you can use and different styles of sharpening, and all different tools need sharpening in different ways. I would say a really great piece of advice I would have on this is to get yourself on a bushcraft course that covers knife sharpening. That's how I learned. It was great to actually sit with someone. So I went on a course with Woodland Ways, which is one of the big bushcraft companies in the UK, and a lot of other ones do cover tool care as well. But it was lovely. It was an hour and a half, sat around the fire, and they laid out all the tools on the floor. And it was like, right, this is a bushcraft knife we've been using all weekend. This is how we sharpen it. This is an axe. This is how we sharpen it. This is how we deal with this thing. And like these are all the different options. These are the ones we recommend. Like have a practice. It was so nice, to do it. And I think that the nice thing about doing that hands-on thing, as opposed to watching YouTube videos or I could do a consultation where I could tell someone this is how you sharpen tools, but it doesn't. It's like riding a bike. I'm sure you'd agree. It's getting a feel for finding the bevel and finding the blunt parts of the knife or the tool, and working with them that way. I would say if you can get hands-on experience, whether it's a day course or a bushcraft course or a workshop of some kind, even if you can, post in your local community notice board and say, "Is anyone in my village good at sharpening tools that wouldn't mind showing me?" I think that's the first step is getting your kind of hands on the tools and using them. And from there it's just practice. And I think this is another thing that's testament to in the beginning, buying really cheap and cheerful tools. So, buy a £10 Mora, and it doesn't if you sharpen it blunt, that's okay. Just practice and use it. And yeah, a Mora knife or a halter force knife, those little bushcraft fixed blade knives, they are my go-to for practicing sharpening because it's really easy to find the bevel to use them. And in terms of actual equipment, I could give a rundown of what I use just to put some kind of things out there that people might like to buy, because there's people talk about whetstones and people talk about different grades of sandpaper. And you can, if you go down like the Ben Orford route, he's an amazing knife maker in England. He's like, well, I sharpen them with this, and then I strop them with leather, and then I strop them with newspaper because the ink on the newspaper like makes the edge even, and you can over engineer it so much to think about.
Yeah,
But
and
what
I think there's a point where, particularly for forest school, it's sharp is sharp enough. I mean, we all have limited time, and when you have 20, 30 odd knives to sharpen, you can't afford to get to finish them up with cotton wool. It's
No, no, exactly. So I would recommend just start with learning how to sharpen a knife. Work from there, work outwards from there, because that's like the core concepts. So a Mora knife or a halter force knife, and then I use a Falkniven DC3. I use, but there's also a DC4. The DC stands for diamond and ceramic. The three is the 3-inch little sharpening stone, and the four is the 4-inch sharpening stone. Either one works. Some people prefer the four because it's easier to hold. So I've got one of those in a little leather pouch, and then I simply, with the Mora knife, find the bevel, You can do circles or you can do up and down. Or kind of if you watch this on YouTube, you'll see me doing the motion, and just get a feel for sharpening it. And when I feel like I'm done with the diamond, I then move on to ceramic. And then to finish it off, all I do is I've got a charity shop leather belt, which I have got on a very thin plank, like a maybe a 4 mil bit of plywood, something like that. You could use, plywood's perfect because it's so flat. And I've just contact adhesived the belt, the charity shop belt to the plywood, so it's on a fixed surface. In films and stuff, you see them stropping on belts, but there's a lot of flex in the belt when they just tense the belt and do it. So I like to have it stuck on wood so that it's a very firm surface. And then I run it up and down the strop a few times. And again, you could strop it for 30 minutes in
Yeah.
front of the TV if you want to, or things like that. But that's all I use for sharpening. So that would be my advice on it. Once you've actually got a feel for how it works and the mechanics of sharpening, I would, yeah, more a knife, a diamond ceramic sharpening stone. There's lots of different ones on the market, and then moving on to a leather strop. And I think from there, it's about learning the mechanics of it. And when we move on to, like, for example, axes, I really like to sharpen an axe with an axe, a puck sharpening stone, they call it. So circular. So you can, because on an axe, this is where sharpening gets so confusing for everyone, I think, is understanding that different tools have different bevels and cutting edges. And on an axe, you can't just sharpen the cutting edge because you eventually blunt the axe. So you have to do the whole profile of the axe to keep it sharp and keep it matched. So yeah, building up to that. But I would learn how to use the skills, and then I would get a
Yeah.
strop and I would get a sharpening stone. I don't know, what do you use, Bracken, for your
Yeah.
sharpening? Does that
So,
sound like similar?
so yeah, I mean, I have one of those little file knife and um, little sharpening stones. So that's the one that just lives in my rucksack, and that means that when I'm out for, say, a weekend, I can touch up my personal life. But when I'm at home, I do have a good set of Japanese water stones, and these
Mm,
these used to be really pricey when I got my first set almost 10 years ago. I think they were 30 odd pounds per stone.
mm,
And now there's actually some really decent sets on Amazon and similar for uh, roughly about 20 to 25 pounds. And they'll have four different grits. So you start off with the coarsest, you work your way to finest. They have a block that you can use to smooth it down because you wear a dip in it with lots of sharpening, get it smoothed down, and then they also usually come with a strop and even with a knife guide for chef's knives because they're sharpened at a slightly different angle, which works
mm.
really well. But yeah, so I use one of those sets. The key, and I've taught quite a few workshops on this, and this is something that if enough people want a workshop, I'll make a CPD day of it. You were quite right about it needing to be in person because sometimes it's just that sometimes you can hear the difference when the angle's not right.
Mm.
But in simple terms, the bushcraft knives that you mentioned, they are relatively easy to sharpen in the world of sharpening things. You just need to get the spine flat and then just lean it over because they have just one bevel. So that
Yeah,
that
and
bit
it's
that
totally
leads up to the
flat.
cutting edge,
Yeah.
the 22-degree Scandi grind as it's called, that's the bit that just needs to be flat against the stone. So something that Ben Orford showed me to the bushcraft show is you put some water on the stone, you put the spine of the blade flat, and then you just lean it over
Mm.
towards the edge. Really difficult to describe over audio.
Totally. Yeah,
But
yeah.
and then just as it contacts, there's a little squirt of water underneath it, and that tells you you've got about the right angle. It's just keeping that same angle. It can
He is a
help you
master. Ben
color
knows.
in that edge with a marker as well, so you can see whether you're taking evenly off. But it's just a lot of practice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you've touched on a really good point there as well about the. So I am nearly always thinking about sharpening from the perspective of ease in the woods. So that's why I really like those diamond ceramic stones because you could do it on the sofa in front of the telly, but you could also do it quickly in the woods. Water stones are really, really good, or wet stones. Water stones is a bookshop. um, but they're harder to use in the field, aren't they? Because you have to keep them in a Tupperware full of water or something like that to keep them wet. Do you find that when you're using them, Bracken?
No, they just need a bit of soaking. So I
Yeah.
actually have, those kind of plastic laundry dispenser
Oh yeah,
boxes. I just
perfect.
stack them all in there, and then
Yeah.
if I need to sharpen, all I do is fill that up with water, and they usually come with a little wooden stand now, so you can with the grippy rubber feet. So
Yeah.
basically, anywhere is possible to set them up. They're going to be a little bit more delicate because you don't want to drop them. They will break.
Yeah.
So they're not great for travel use, but I figure for most people, you're looking to do it when you're at home or at
Yeah.
your kit storage, just spending a bit of time there. As I say, if you've got 15 knives, it's worth getting everything set up,
Mm.
getting a nice big surface, which is what those whetstones have, that you don't need as many passes. But
Yeah.
for field sharpening, yeah, Van and it's actually a similar technique to the axes, isn't it? Where
Yeah.
you're kind of looking at the axe blade from the top or the knife blade from the top, and you kind of bringing the stone over until you don't see any shadow, then just working at
Yeah.
that angle.
Yeah.
But yeah, sounds like another future video. I did do one way back. I wouldn't encourage people to look for it because it's one of the really, really old ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I think you make me want to buy some whetstones now because I haven't used whetstones for a lot of years. But I think it's really good what you're saying about the practicality of a whetstone. Actually, there's a little bit more preparation needed, but for speed, for course kit, it's very, very good. And I think this is another really good point about what we're talking about here is about getting hands-on so you can find the method that works for you because there is lots of different ones and lots of different kind of skills involved. And do you want your knives to be like super shave sharp and bright and shiny because you've used all the honing paste when you're stropping it and everything, or is it just a sharp practical knife that's going to be good for whittling? And I think my experience now of kind of the years I've done forest school and bushcraft is there's nothing worse than starting a whittling session and you realize the knives aren't sharp enough because the kids, just the barrier to success is so much bigger and also the risks of using a blunt knife. So yeah, and I think starting with knives is a good one because I think knives are the most important thing to keep sharp because axes and bill hooks to a certain extent there's kind of you're using kind of different physics and mechanics when you're doing chopping with them. It makes a huge difference for them to be super sharp, but it's not as vital, I think, as it
Yeah,
is with the knives.
it's
So the knives is a good start.
as long as the axe doesn't bounce.
Yeah,
If it's blunt enough, you're basically hitting it with a hammer
yeah,
equivalent. So
yeah,
sharp enough. I mean, carving axes is a different thing. So if you're using carving axes kind of coming at the side of an object, you need to have it quite a bit sharper
very
just so
sharp.
it
Yeah,
bites in. But
yeah,
as long as it's got enough edge when you swing it that it won't just bounce when it hits the
yeah,
wood, you're fine. And even if you got a perfect edge on that axe, and that's one of the things I'll talk about is even if you've got a perfect edge on that axe, as soon as you swing it into the first bit of hornbeam or knotty beech, that
yeah,
nice edge is gone.
yeah. Exactly, yeah. And one thing I will say as well about sharpening, because I think that I learned this the hard way when I was like 15, 16, first getting into bushcraft. It's like, oh, my knife's a bit sharp. I'm going to buy a sharpener. And I think I was probably at the bushcraft show or somewhere like this, and I went for like what felt like the easy win, and it was like the little sharpening stone that has the groove that you slot the knife in and pull
Yeah.
it
Oh,
through
those
like this,
things.
like they make them for kitchen knives. They work great for kitchen knives because kitchen knives they're designed to be like blunt and then extremely sharp, and yeah, and they always like chefs are putting different bevels on their knives just because of the speed they're sharpening. But with a bushcraft knife, the chances that the bevel on that sharpening stone matches the bevel on your knife is so slim. And I found that out, when I think at the first bushcraft course I went on, the guy's like your Mora has a secondary bevel on it because I'd been sharpening it with this thing, and it's still to this day I think you can see my first bushcraft knife. It's got this
Yeah,
like this
even
bevel.
when the bevel's right, they create almost a serrated edge
Yeah,
to the knife. So no, some of the really high end stuff is decent. So there's some like the Edge Pro and that kind of stuff. There's whole knife sharpening systems, but I think unless you are going into knife sharpening as a kind of side hustle in addition to your forest school, that's probably out of
yeah.
most people's budgets.
Yeah, and I think as well with the sharpening, buy those Moras and those halter force knives really cheap. Buy a second-hand one on eBay or wherever you can buy one to practice on. And then as you progress up to axes and stuff, you can buy really cheap axes from B&Q and Screwfix and things. Personally, I would avoid them because they're really poor quality metal and the handles are often made of plastic. They're not really good for forest school applications. What I would do is if you want to buy an axe for practicing sharpening, get yourself to a car boot because you often get like in tools like house clearance stalls where they've got old tools and things. You can actually find a really nice axe with a wooden handle. I saw one the other day that I had to talk myself out of because it was crying out for this new handle. It was this beautiful Swedish axe head, but the guy wanted 8 quid for it, and I was like, I'm going to spend 8 quid, and I'm going to have to hype myself up to whittle a new handle for this. And I don't know if I will, but that's just an example, like an absolute bargain. Polished up and sharpened, that axe would be amazing. So I think that's a great place to find good quality axes to practice sharpening on.
Yeah,
So
and brace and bit drills.
yes,
So
yeah.
you can get some really nice ones. I'm kind of it's kind of a different subject here, but at the moment my thing is that if I'm looking for a hand drill, nothing in the last built in the last 20 years is the
Mm,
same. It's if you want one that really works smoothly and you don't have the kids constantly struggling to get it to power through, no, get something made in Sheffield pre 2000s and it'll
yes.
be decent.
Yeah, and what's annoying is that some of these old tools, they're realizing that they have this nice value. So now they're turning up in antique shops for like 60 quid or something. And yeah, car boots are the place to go. I've actually started making my own palm drills. So someone someone must have done a great thing with their SEO on their website because I Googled palm drills because I wanted to buy some for forest school. And the top of it was a blog post on how to make your own. And I was like, oh, I could do this. So I did the palm drilling and had a look at this tutorial. And basically, you cut a little round of hazel, you drill a hole with the drill bit you're going to use, fill it with expanding glue, stick it in. It works okay for the first sort of 6 months, and then as the wood dries out, it tightens around the drill bit even more, so it works even better. And now I'm going to car boots all the time and buying as many drill bits as I can and making them myself. It saves a fortune. It's just
Yeah,
great.
but
Yeah.
I've gotten the same trick, except I just bought the drill bits because I was looking at the price for a palm drill, which is essentially just, as you say, bit of wood, a drill bit and a bit of wood. So they're like £8 each.
Yeah, a set
They're
of
the
four is
cheapest.
like 30 quid or something. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Though you're looking a little bit bright in
Yeah,
your
I don't know
camera,
why.
like surface of the sun.
Yeah.
You're not being abducted.
No, I'm not being abducted. I
That's
don't know
good.
what's going on. It's a new laptop and I'm still getting used to the camera on this. Sit
Cool.
back a
So
bit. There we go.
this question came in from my mailing list. Was about pricing one-to-one sessions. This is something that
Mm.
I'm also kind of working my way through at the moment, which is essentially we're in the space where we'd like to offer one-to-one sessions because one-to-one sessions, particularly from a more therapeutic angle, just have so much um, benefit and it's nice to have a chilled one-to-one session with someone and you can really go the distance.
Yeah.
Problem is trying to price that in such a way that it doesn't price people out of the market because if we've got 20 people coming to us for a day, we can charge £40 for that. But if we're trying to make the same amount from one person, then we're charging them 200. And trying to work out how to price one-to-one sessions in a way that doesn't completely exclude people, but also means that we can keep the money coming in and keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Now, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is really top of mind for me as well because the one of the forest schools that I'm working with at the moment, we have had a lot of requests for kind of informal AP. So we're not a registered alternative provision, but local schools have seen what we've been doing with home ed, and we've had a few in our home ed groups that have had more challenging behaviour and higher levels of need that we've been able to support. So they're coming to us and saying, we've got this child who it's going on with my camera. That is distracting, isn't it? We've got this child who is flexi schooling. That's a really big thing that's coming in now, where actually children that can't cope full time in the classroom are getting other opportunities and other kind of things thrown their way. So we're also in the process of really talking about what that looks like. And I think the big factor that you need to consider with this, the pricing of one-to-one sessions, is around who's paying. I think is a really big factor because it's not to say that we can charge differently depending on who's paying, but who's paying will depend on how much, how likely we are, I think, to have that one-to-one pricing approved. Because, like you say, there's one child that we're in talks about at the moment who needs one-to-one, and he's taken a particular liking to me, and he wants to do 3 hours one day a week doing some stuff and creating some things and working on some skills and being out in the woods rather than being at school. And in the school is paying in this instance, and because the school is paying, there are things that we can do that make it more valuable and justify the cost as well. So the school's got a higher budget, so that's good. But also the school has a slightly higher level of demands maybe than a parent would. So what I mean by that is the school is interested in having targets set for him, having assessments done, having evidence, having reports written, all these things, which actually, because we do that, we can justify a higher charge. So it sounds crazy to say we're going to have him for 3 hours and we'll give him some food and that's 300 quid, for example. That sounds crazy. But if you say, it's going back to conversations we've had before about value and marketing, is that if you say, we've got this 3 hour session and I'm going to share my planning with you ahead of time so you can check it over as a school. I'm going to do a report for him that's going to have these things and these targets. And every week I'm going to update what's going on with those and write a report. And we're going to give you photo evidence and we're going to make a journal for him that he can fill a bit in and we can fill a bit in. And, that's all stuff you can build into that 3 hour session, but it adds to the value of the school paying for it. But I think the really big challenge comes with doing the one-to-one where maybe where the yeah, the maybe the parents are paying or the family or things like that. And then it's down to, how affluent is the family, because you never know how much money a family has and things like that. I think we've talked about this before as well with home ed sessions, haven't we? That sometimes people are home educating because they can really afford to because they've got a lot of spare cash. And sometimes because they're home educating, they've got hardly any spare cash and it's a hard market to kind of price for. Um, but yeah, I think with the one-to-one, if we get right back to basics from our end, and I'll get your thoughts on this as well, Bracken. I think that it's actually simpler to price one-to-one than it is to price for a group. Because if we're pricing for a group, then we have to work out all of our costs and all our expenses. Then we have to factor in, profit and margins and all these sort of things. And then we have to divide it by the number of students we probably expect to have to work out the per student cost, and then any extras over that is good profit for us. Whereas doing it for one-to-one, it is literally what's my day rate or my rate for my time
Yeah.
being one-to-one, what's all my expenses and my costs, what's my 20 to 30% kind of margin that I want to stick on top to have a bit of profit for my business and my pricing. And then that's what we charge. But like you say, that does create some big scary numbers that then, it feels terrifying sometimes to quote someone, oh, I'll have your child once a week for £300 a week, or whatever it might be. It seems so crazy, but for the right customer, it's incredibly value for them to do it. But it is really tricky to price one-to-one. Yeah, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat, and this actually does lead into a question that I kind of added onto the list as well, and we could probably answer it at the same time because it's got those kind of parallel thoughts, which is there actually an upper cap to
Yeah,
how much you can charge? Because I've been listening to a lot of stuff lately, and a lot of people in the business space go essentially the more you can charge, the better. So if you are struggling for money, the first thing you should do is double, triple, or quadruple your prices immediately. And even if you have a 75% drop, it still works out fine. I'm like, well, what about a 100% drop?
yeah,
I mean, It's we are operating within a market where there are other people offering sessions. So if everyone else is offering a session for £5 and yours is 55, then there might still be people that will pay for it, but would they still pay at 100, 200, 500, six
Yeah,
hundred? You kind of get into Day with Ray Mears
yeah,
levels at the end
yeah,
of that. So for me, most of the people that I work with now, I either have something else that happens at the same time. So one of my one-to-one sessions essentially pays for my opportunity to come out and film all the videos that I do for my YouTube channel. So it pays my petrol money there. It gives me an excuse to get out of the house and go and film those videos, pays for the site hire, all of that, with a little bit on top just to help pay the bills. And then there's another session which is lucky enough to be funded by the local authority through a certain scheme. Can't remember which scheme it is. Essentially,
yeah.
child has been identified as needing additional support, and there is a budget made available for tutors and so on. And so I was able to be paid through that, and then I was on a different, as you say, different pay scale within that.
Mm,
And if I was going straight to it, if a charity came and approached me and said, "Well, we're doing this," then it would be charity rates. It's for those people that you know could well be struggling and could well be difficult. And same with in a professional capacity, working with other forest school leaders. I mean, with looking at the pricing of going, okay, well, if they're in the same similar boat to me as a forest school leader, chances are they don't have millions to spend on something. So what do I charge where I can still have my time valued so I don't feel like I'm arriving at a session and going, okay, well, I'm going to walk away from this with about £20 and I've already spent £10 on petrol getting here,
mm.
and kind of almost it starts building burnout and resentment and everything else. But then there's also, well, I want them to, I want to be there to help people. And that's in this space, we care a lot about helping people. And that sometimes starts to feed into that interaction between price and value.
Yeah, definitely. And you've touched on a really good point there as well about uh, like paying for your time in the woods and being able to make YouTube videos. That's a great way of thinking about affordable one-to-one stuff. So, and this is a conversation that we've been having actually about one of our one-to-one opportunities we have at the moment, that actually, because of the kind of things he's interested in, it could actually be beneficial for us to go to the woods to work with him to improve the site, to restock the firewood shed every week, to, help with maybe felling some smaller trees, clearing some areas, putting up some shelters, permanent structures. But what happens when that child is no longer interested in that, or that something shifts and suddenly we can't provide what that child needs. So we're actually doing it for us, not for them. And that's a really hard factor, isn't it? It's really tricky. One thing you can do as well is if one-to-one feels too impossible to price for whatever reason, whether it's because the stakeholders involved can't afford you or whatever it might be, maybe there's an opportunity where you could do 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. Or maybe there's an opportunity where actually you could get a helper in and you could have a very, very small group, maybe 5-to-2 or something like that, that enables you to give the same level of support, especially if we're grouping together children with similar needs, similar interests, similar profiles, similar kind of desired outcomes from the settings or the charities or the parents that want to pay for them, that would then bring the cost down. So that could be an opportunity as well. It is really tricky because as soon as we go one-to-one, it gets so expensive. But like you say, one-to-one is the secret to that really deep, really productive, therapeutic woodland time, and actually that some young people and indeed adults as well, if we're talking about adult forest school or sort of bushcraft interventions, they really need that small group one-to-one skills. But it is tricky to nail it and price it. And I think that the best thing you can do is really think about your day rate and your expenses and add that profit margin on top so that you are giving a realistic price that avoids that resentment and that burnout you're talking about. That's everything for me because I know of some people that are doing forest school either subsidized or they're working with vulnerable groups that they really want to keep supporting. But then they sit with me and they go, I'm doing a 5 hour forest school session and I'm walking away with literally 20 quid. But I really don't want to stop helping these people, but I'm so sick of it and I can't worried about how I'm going to pay the bills. And at that point, you have to say the maths doesn't lie. And if we keep going the way we're going, it's all going to come to an end. And these vulnerable people aren't going to get this forest school that they're enjoying at the moment. So it's really good to draw it out and think about how it's going to be. Um, but yeah, it is tricky with one to one, and it is tricky, especially with um, whoever is paying and then feeling guilty for charging whatever prices you're charging. And I think finding any way you can to increase value is the big one with charging the thing because it doesn't take you any extra time to take photos in a forest school session for evidence or to sit down 20 minutes at the end and reflect with the child and fill in their journal together and their little report and their little assessment matrix, whatever we want to do. But to the person or the institution paying, that's so valuable to them that therefore the price looks better justified rather than just chuck us 300 quid and I'll play for 3 hours in the woods with this kid, which doesn't sound as good as,
No, no,
everything else. Yeah.
you're correct. It's all about demonstrating that value and couch it in a way that fits in with the goals of the people who want um the one-to-one to happen. So as you
Yeah.
say, the school's main emphasis is going to be on the reports showing that they are meeting key targets, so they have evidence that they can then put towards an ECHP, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. It's for the kind of individual parents and families that might come to you. It might be about, okay, there's this, we're going to work on this kind of regulation within it. We could see we have these problems, so these are the bits we're going to try and work on together and getting those photos that you can then share with them about moments, and things that a child can take away, mallets made or Stone Age necklaces or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm still of the point of view that it's price high then justify it. See whether you can add the value.
Yeah.
And you're quite right. Same flow chart that I use whenever I'm trying to work out what is my daily rate? What do I need to earn? Add in what my running costs are for a day of delivering something, and then I usually charge either by the full day or by the half day. Hourly very rarely makes
Yeah.
sense in this
No,
space
never. Yeah.
because
Never.
unless you can teleport to another woodland across the country with zero setup and packed down
Yeah.
time,
And
you
instantly plan and instantly buy all the shopping and the materials and yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think if the fantastic person that asked this question on your mailing list is listening right now, um, is I would say once you've sort of if you are deliberating this one-to-one pricing and you're thinking about it, once you've decided on that price, get in touch with us. Like get in touch with Bracken or send me an email through my website or on the Facebook group. You can ask about it. You can come in anonymous and ask because sometimes what you need, I mean, maybe you're in a position where you have priced for a one-to-one session and someone's told you to get lost, it's way too expensive. But maybe you've come up with this number and you're just like, that's completely unreasonable. So maybe just put it out to the world. Ask, is this a fair price for this? And maybe that'll give you the confidence that you need to go in and ask it. Because I think, have you heard the expression selling out of your own wallet?
no, it does ring a
No.
slight bell, but
This is
okay.
this is just an excellent saying. Never sell out of your own wallet. And what that means is that we are guilty as business owners, as practitioners, um, as self-employed people. It's so easy to fall into the trap of assuming that your customer has the same buying power that you do. So selling out of your own wallet is setting prices that you could afford. And it might be actually that the person that you're working with, owns a Lamborghini and lives in a mansion or whatever it might be, and it might be nothing to them. They might have a household income of 10 grand a month and whatever it might be, or the school they're working with has a budget for that child of, at the special school I used to work for, we had children that their placement with the local authority was paying £250,000 a year to send them there. And it's like, if you're dealing with a child like that, it's totally reasonable to charge 300 quid for a morning or, whatever it might be. So don't always think that, you're selling to someone who's in the same financial position you are, because
Yeah.
it might be that actually the pot of money allocated to that one-to-one opportunity and the value that that person holds in it is really, really high. So they're willing to pay.
Yeah, and key thought within that as well is think about if you had an unlimited budget for the sessions and activities you ran, and you also had a whole lot more time and energy, how much better a service
Mm,
could you provide? How
I
much
love that.
more could you help someone if you had all of that time and energy and money well thrown it in? If we are depriving everyone, I mean, that's kind of, I feel, some ways where we've reached in the UK in the outdoor sector is kind of a race to the bottom. Can we
Yeah.
offer the bare minimum for the lowest price?
Yeah. It's
And
so true.
where does it leave quality and actually providing something that really has impact?
Yeah.
If we're going, well, we could do um, whatever. I mean, something that's coming up for me is we're going to be panassing trout. And trout aren't cheap. It,
No.
it's not marshmallows money.
No.
So if I get a trout for every person, it's actually kind of like adding up. Okay, yeah, that's going to be a bit. And oh yeah, I need all the tools for that, and we're going to need a fire going, so we're going to have a decent amount of good quality firewood, not the cheap birch from the supermarket, which is burned through in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
All of it needs that, but actually, I can offer a better experience with that because I do charge more than the going rate for my sessions,
Yeah.
and they are, thanks to you, doing
Yeah.
very
Hey.
successfully, thanks to you, the push. So it's yeah,
Yeah.
get to the value.
Yeah, I think so. And you've touched on a really good thing there as well. I think it's in one of Alex Hormozzi's books. He talks about the 1/10 or the 10 times rule. So it's, if you looked at your pricing and it was 10 times as high, or it was 1/10 of what you currently charge, what would you do differently? I love that, because actually it's easy to say, well, if if your forest school session was 10 times more expensive, so instead of 300 quid for a day, it was 3,000, what would you do differently? And you'd say, well, I would spend hours doing this, and I would build an adventure playground to do this, and I would, pick up the child from their house in a minibus, and I would bring them out, and I'd cook them food, and I would do this and do that. And you think, and would someone be willing to pay that if that's what you did? And it's like, well, yeah, maybe. And it's like, well, so maybe the prices need to be a bit higher and you do a bit more. It's a really nice way of reframing it,
Yeah,
thinking about the
and
value.
that's a solution to what a lot of people are saying now about saturated markets, is we actually need a lot of people at a lot of different price points. I
Yeah,
mean, where do people go if they have a child that has severe need and they need in-depth interactions and sessions,
with
and
professionals. Yeah,
the parents have the money to pay, but all they can find is the forest schools who are trying to operate with 25 children and two two assistants. It's where can they go? Where's this
mm,
the space for them?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great question. Really good. Thank you to the sender of that one.
No, and I'm just going to push a little bit on that on the kind of the second question that I had as part of that. Is there actually an upper limit in your opinion to what we charge for sessions? Is
That
there
is a
really
great
a
question.
market cap where you go,
Mm,
okay, I'm running a forest school session, provided it's not we're bringing in everyone in Lamborghinis. It's just your standard forest school session.
yeah, it's so hard to say because it depends on so many factors. If you're running forest school in a park in central London for bankers' children, it's going to be so different to if you are running a forest school in an old mining town in West Cumbria that's maybe quite financially, depressed. And um, it's going to have a really big factor, and that's where I think the market research comes in a very big way, and understanding the avatar of your business, the person that is your ideal customer. Um, because I found doing forest school as I've done this year. So previously I was based in a school and I did that full time, but now I am doing it with businesses. I'm realizing that we set the price for the sessions and then we have a block booking with a discount. I think it's the same as what you do. And you put it out there, and the amount of people who just pay in full with no queries. We've got a session that's fully booked and it's just painful that everyone with a waiting list. And you think, wow, this when I set this price, this really felt like the limit, but not even one person has gone, how much? Questioned it. So it's such a fascinating exercise. And I think the only way to find out where the ceiling is in your market is to test it. And this is something that's been on my kind of forest school bucket list for a while, is to actually experiment with some really premium forest school. So either finding a location somewhere that's in a wealthy, affluent area, or is in an area that I currently work, but actually creating that forest school session, which is that much more valuable, that much better marketed, that much, and saying actually, could we get away with charging 100 quid a day, and who would come? And see if it's something that people would come and do. Living near Cambridge now, I've had some amazing discussions with some of the practitioners in Cambridgeshire that you kind of wince at setting a session price for, maybe 10 or 15 pounds for a 2 hour session or an hour and a half session. And then the oldest car that turns up dropping off kids is like a 2023 number plate. And you're thinking, huh, okay, maybe this is too cheap. Um, and this is something that I've been fascinated about ever since I got into this kind of business development side. Um, but I think that the ceiling is subject to testing. I think is the best way to
Yeah.
to answer that
I
question. Yeah, it just depends.
I think I'm also starting to become much more of a proponent of the if a portion of the people that you encounter aren't telling you you're too expensive, you're probably too cheap. So thinking like maybe that one or two out of 10. So if you meet 10 people and one or two go, "Ooh, that's pricey," then you're probably starting to get in the right ballpark.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
because you've still got 80% and you've got a chance to win over that other because what a lot of books that I've come across say, well, actually if someone tells you you're too expensive, that's a great place to start because they're telling you they want to come to your sessions. They
Yeah,
just haven't been convinced enough yet.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's the best objection to have. And I think this is a really fascinating frontier of forest school as it is developing at the moment, is understanding the role of marketing and sales within forest school. And that's something that I'm really trying to be a big advocate for and teach people about and work with people on. So a bit about me and my business is that when I was living in Norway last year, I did my forest school consultancy completely on the side. So it was the money didn't really matter, just putting myself out there, see if I could get some one-to-one, see if I could do some things. And I was charging what felt like a very expensive price. So to work with me as it was in its past form, it was £169 for a 2 hour consultation, and I made you an action plan afterwards. And I felt like that I feel bad telling people that and everything. But I've probably had, coming through that route, I've probably had maybe 20 clients go for that option. And my close rate, so the number of people I've closed to do that. So basically, how you book with me is you have a free consultation. We see if I'm a good fit for you, if I could help you, what your problems are, whether there is a way that I can support you, and whether you want to be supported by me. And then from there, it's would you like to book? Yes or no? And then we go for the development call afterwards, which is the 2 hour thing. My close rate is 100%. So I have never got someone in front of me for a free consultation and they've gone, actually, no. And that was the big motivator in this year, totally rebuilding my business. Because actually, I realized that actually, if 100% of people coming to me say yes with no objections whatsoever, then I could do more for them. I could definitely be more valuable. I could definitely be more expensive. So that's what I'm working on now in recreating is actually what I thought was a very expensive price for the for the customers I'm working with and what they really need help with. It's actually very reasonable. So I want to make it even more valuable and even more sort of extensive for them so that I can justify charging slightly higher prices because it's no longer a side hustle. It's now a full-time job. So it's different
Yep.
in that way. But this is exactly it. If you're fully booking all the time with no objections, you are too cheap. That's just a fact. And if we look, like you said, if one or two people are saying that's too expensive, then that's a really good point to be. The actual kind of if you look at big businesses and how they operate, they strive for a 30% close rate. So 70% of their customers say no. And that's incredible. That seems insane. Like the idea, like as a struggling forest school business, you turn away 70% of your prospective customers. That sounds crazy. And I don't think we should strive for that in forest school. But if that's what big businesses are working with and making billions of pounds in profit, then there's something in that actually that maybe you should be getting more no's than you are. And to do that, you should raise the price and raise the value. So
So
yeah, it's
I
a fascinating
I
topic.
I can already hear, and this is a voice in my head as well, and I can already hear people kind of typing away. Uh, what about people who can't afford the sessions? Like,
Mm,
what about the people who get left behind when the price rises? And even if they want to, they simply just like there's nothing left. They don't go to any other activities. They don't drive the newest car. Like there's just nothing in the budget. What can we do for these people? How can we think about it?
definitely. And we don't want to have customers who are taking out loans to come to forest school or using their credit cards or things like that. We need to strike a balance. And I think the solution for that is to have tiers to your forest school business, however you can do that. So, for example, having either some kind of community effort that you do. So whether you have a certain kind of session that's free or subsidized or very affordable. I know some people do like forest school for a fiver and it's funded by partly by the local authority or by local charities or things like that so that they can still make enough, excuse me, money to make it happen. But they can charge much less. Another way to do it is to have levels of service. So this is very much what I'm working with at the moment, is that I am changing what I do in my forest school consultancy side from being one price, one service to being a more expensive 60-day one-to-one mentorship is what I'm about to launch. Or if you can't afford that, for uh, I think it's 20 times less or something. I'm trying to work out the maths in my head. You could pay to join a community thing for a month. So you can still get help, but just in a different way, one to many rather than one to one. And I think we can replicate a similar model in our forest schools. So maybe it's if they can't afford to come to your 6 hour forest school day, which is maybe anywhere between 30 and £60 for the day, then actually they can come to a 2 hour one, a 2 hour affordable one you do. Maybe it's a day when you need to come to the woods anyway to film YouTube videos or content or, but like you say, all that stuff. Maybe you can have a morning session that pays for your fuel and your time coming out there and your packed lunch, things like that. So that could be a really good option. The third way that some people do it, which I think is excellent, this is not forest school based, but a good friend of mine, Josh Connolly, who does a lot of well-being stuff on social media. He's got a really big following and he does in-person well-being things and breath work and things like this. He has a zero barrier to entry policy. I don't know if we've talked about this before. I've certainly told other people in the forest school space about this. I love this model. And I think this model works really well if you have a big following or a big community around you. He does in-person breathwork sessions and they're quite expensive. They're expensive. So I think it's 35 or 40 quid for a 2 hour breathwork with him. But he has zero barrier to entry. And it says when you book, if you can't afford this, just get in touch with me and you can come anyway. There is absolutely no barrier to entry. And what he finds is he sells enough of the 35, £40 tickets to
Yep.
actually pay for all the people to come for free. And he even has, because he advertises it, he even has people contact him and say, this is amazing what you're doing. I'm going to pay for 10 tickets. So things like that. So people want to come in and want to help him. And I think as a forest school business, you can lean into that, especially if you're in a space where you have maybe, I keep talking about Cambridge because I'm in Cambridge at the minute. You've got very, very wealthy people and also, big wealth disparity at the other end actually saying, I want everyone to be able to come to this, so I charge this price for the people that can afford it. And if you can't afford it, no judgment, no criteria, no barrier to entry, no assessments, just come and I'll make it work. And you have to trust the process and trust the community, but that's a great way that you can do it as well. And that again is an argument for higher prices. Because if you've got higher prices, you've got more profit and you can afford to pay for people to come. And I think that's really nice. And generally speaking, people, don't take the mick with that. They for whatever reason, they feel the generosity come. They want to be honest. They want to support you. So you won't get people that make £1 million a year coming trying to come for free or things like that. It's actually it's good. So these are all things to be experimented with. And again, it's about knowing your market and assessing your market and knowing what to do. And it's a great point. We want to be able to do forest school for everybody. I don't think there's a forest school practitioner out there that only wants to do forest school with rich, posh kids. And I think a lot of people that work with children maybe realize as well that actually sometimes the wealthy kids can be the most challenging kids to work with. And actually, the ones you get the most reward and the most value from working with are the kids from poorer backgrounds. So it's getting that balance is a really big thing for sure.
No, that's perfect answer. All right, we hit SEN in forest school because I know this is more your background. How to
Mm,
navigate accessing funding to support children needing extra support in sessions. Issues
yes,
around lack of available funding to support accessibility. I guess that kind of does tie into what we've already been talking
it does.
about.
It does. So there's two factors in this. Again, this is something that I've been working on with my current colleagues. Um, there's two ways to think about it. If you have a child, let's imagine a child with SEN at our forest school. Maybe they're coming to a stay and play group or maybe a drop off. A drop off is probably a better example for this, and they need more support than we can give them. So maybe we're working on a ratio of 1 to 6, one staff member to 6 kids, but there is a child in that six who is making everything unsafe with the way that they are behaving in the woods. And maybe this is a child that we really care about, that we really want to be able to support, that we're going to fight tooth and nail to have. Maybe they're a really sweet child. They just get dysregulated by something, or they struggle with the play with others or social situations, whatever it might be. We have to think about how can we support that child? Is that a child that we want to move to a different session? Is that a child that might be better in a one-to-one therapeutic thing like we were discussing earlier? Or is it that that child actually could engage brilliantly if we were able to put a little bit more support in place? So whether it was we need certain resources or certain sensory aids or activities or infrastructure that would calm that child down, how could we get funding for that and help that child with regulation and then they'll be able to engage? Or maybe it's that that child needs a one-to-one. So maybe if we could employ somebody else as a subcontractor or self-employed person who comes into our business that could just be one-to-one dedicated to that child, they'll be able to engage really, really well, and the incidents and the behavior we face will totally change. If that's the case, that comes into our kind of business and our pricing and understanding those different things. If it's about funding, so if we need funding, one place that we can start is the local authority, because chances are if that child is proving challenging in our forest school or really struggling to cope, they probably already have a paper trail. So actually going to the local authority and saying, I've got this child, they really need this. This is the case I've got, for them, what funding is available. They're going to be able to at least signpost things. Maybe it's charities or schemes or things like that where you can get funding. And it does really vary from local authority to local authority. So the funding pots we're accessing in Cambridgeshire, I've never come across before. So it does really vary from place to place. So you have to go to your local authority to see what's available. It might also be that you could get some kind of private sponsorship for that child. So it might be that there's funding available from other kind of institutions or individuals that are looking to support special needs children or SEN children to access forest school or access outdoor spaces. You know, there's all kinds of things like that. The other option, a bit like we were saying about never sell out of your own wallet, is that actually the parents might be able to pay extra to have a one-to-one. So it might actually be that it's a conversation. You could say, we really want your child to keep coming, but we need them to have a one-to-one. The parents are going to understand in 99% of cases, you know, the needs of their own children. Saying, actually, would you be happy to pay an extra £15 an hour or an extra, you know, £100 a day that your child comes to pay for them? And it might be that the parents get DLA, disability living allowance, or other benefits for that child. And it might also be they've got other pots of funding to do with schooling or education or things that they can access on. So there's lots of different options of things you can find. And I think the first step is to actually assess that child in your forest school. Can we support them if we have something different? If the answer is yes, it's then working out, right, how much is that going to cost? Is it a one-off cost? Is it a weekly cost? And then starting with the local authority and talking to the parents to see what you can do to bring it in and bring it together. And again, it might be if we're going for having a really valuable forest school where we can actually have some extra money to accommodate this, it might be we can pay for that child to have a one-to-one by raising our prices slightly for everything else. And that has benefits in other ways for our business. So if we look at, you know, employing a one-to-one, it might be we find an amazing one-to-one who can then help us with other things that we do, like holiday clubs and other things that we have on offer at our forest school. So it could actually have auxiliary benefits, being able to take on other people and get other support. And you might find actually that you take on a one-to-one and having another member of staff in the woods with you makes your life so much easier that you think, actually, I'm going to raise all my prices so I can just pay for this person to come all the time because it's really, really helpful. So that's how I think about accessing funding. But it is really hard, and it does vary, and funding pots dry up, and other ones appear, and there's so many different ways to kind of to navigate that. And but it starts with working out, am I the right setting for this child? That really is the most important question, because if you can't say yes to that, then the most important thing you can do actually is move that child on to a different provision that will be better for them.
Yeah, totally agree. That's a really good framework for looking at it. And that's kind of the conversation that I have with a lot of parents that come to me. I often get messages about my home ed sessions going, okay, my child has X needs, um, and would the sessions be suitable? And my answer typically at the moment is, well, okay, it's me, an assistant. We cap the number of children at between 10 and 12, depending on the age and ability. And my responsibility is to those other children as well.
Hmm.
So I can't spare the entire session to be one-to-one with a child. If you're coming in as support, we can maybe work it, but just being really upfront about what I can offer within that, and then go, well, okay, as you say, can we work out a way to make it work if we've defined that this is the right place to be?
Hmm.
And yeah, just being really, I feel it's advantage to be upfront about these things rather than kind of going, yeah, maybe we can. That they are fully aware of some of the challenges that their child might face in these settings, and I think a lot of people just welcome being told straight out what to expect.
Yeah, it's really good. And I've run some forest school open days where children have turned up and straight away you're thinking, oh, I really hope they don't book. And you're watching this, you know, maybe they're, you know, non-verbal or they're very violent when they're playing with others or things like that. And you think, oh, this really isn't the right session for them to be booking onto. And this gives you ideas for other sessions you might be able to run with higher prices and smaller ratios and all this sort of thing. But also, I've found that 100% of the time that I've had children like that turn up at an open day, the parents don't book them on. The parents know that it isn't quite the right fit for them by bringing them to the open day and seeing. And when we've had children with SEN book on, and kind of sometimes it takes a few weeks for the children to settle in and those behaviors to kind of come up. Every conversation I've had with parents has been it's been fantastic. You know, there was one where we had a child with pathological demand avoidance, and we finished this activity and it all went sideways and it got a bit violent and really dysregulated and aggressive. And I was like dreading this phone call with this parent to say, like, this really happened. It was quite scary and we're not sure how to go forward. And I told her what had happened, and she just went, yeah, you know how I feel every time I go to the supermarket. And it was just so great because it was like, great, you're on side. Phew. And then we were able to like talk about options and work through it. And that's really fantastic, being able to have those real conversations, like being being authentic and being honest and being vulnerable with the parents is a really, really great way to have those conversations.
Yeah, and the
It's
other
really
thing
good.
I'll add to that is that most of the parents, well, the parents are going to be the best guide to what that child needs rather than any label or anything else. These parents are the ones that are managing these needs on a daily
Mm,
basis. So being honest and open and kind of going, okay, how can I support you is a really valuable conversation to have. And
yeah.
I had a child that came to some of my regional sessions, and it was that same kind of, wow, okay, gosh, there's a lot of dysregulation here. I'm not sure whether this is going to be suitable, but you know what? Let me just reach out to the parent, just go, okay, this is what I've seen. This is how can we help? How can we help manage this? Is this the right place, child? And we had some really good conversations. Turns out I was doing the right things, which is just leaving them to it.
Mm,
It's like, okay, if the person just charges off into the woods, then leave them. We'll come back to it. We'll gradually reintroduce them and work out. And they they have changed massively, and they are one of my favorite families. Just because we had that open conversation and we were able to work through problems and just keeping those lines of communication open.
yeah,
Just going,
definitely.
sometimes I might do something that doesn't work right for your child, and I want you to be able to come to me and tell me that
Yeah,
so that I can change. And I also want to be able to go, hey, I noticed this in this situation. Do you want me to step in and help? Or is it actually more helpful if I just go, hey kids, do you see that mushroom over there?
yeah,
Big mushroom, and draw their attention away. And that's just say just being open, just keeping that communication
yeah.
rolling.
Definitely. Yeah, and getting those nuggets of wisdom on what works. And sometimes if they're based in a school, they might have a behavior support plan or a risk assessment that gives some really good advice. And if not, then the parents, they're going to know what works at home. And sometimes if you don't have those conversations, you suffer in silence. So the parent goes, just set a timer. They re-regulate when the timer's set. It's like, oh, okay. Like whatever it might be, it's really good. Yeah.
Cool, cool. You still okay for time?
I'm fine for time. Yeah.
Yes, cool. So we've got one more question. Uh,
Cool.
Marketing when you can't use Facebook. It seems this person is locked out of Facebook due to some weird copyright strike that just doesn't seem to be a thing. But this is also a pattern that I've kind of seen with Facebook is that well, it's known in fancy terms, organic reach,
Mm.
where you people who sign up to your page, they click the I like your what you do. I'd like to see more
Yeah.
of it, where they just don't. You
Yeah.
have 5,000 people who like your page, want to see your stuff, and then 20 people actually see the post that you put out.
Yeah.
And this is common across a lot of social media platforms as they try and push that paid advertising. So it's really how to deal with marketing, getting people into your slots without using the dreaded book of faces.
Yeah, really good. Yeah. I had you sent the questions to me ahead of time and I had a big think about this and I thought, what would I do if I couldn't use Facebook? And I think where I would start very much is my camera is still like for anyone watching this on YouTube, I'm sorry, I keep getting lit up. If I close the cover, I come back for a bit. There I am. Um, yeah, for anyone sort of looking to advertise and not use Facebook, I think the key thing is word of mouth and recommendation. I think it's huge. It's really, really big.
Yeah.
Now, there is a flaw to that, that you have to get people in the door to start with to be able to do word of mouth and to do referrals and recommendations. But I think it works extremely well, especially when we're talking about home ed groups and toddler groups and after school clubs, anything where parents are talking to each other. Referrals are amazing. So, what a referral might look like is actually putting something in place so that your current customers are incentivized to recruit more people. So an offer we ran recently at one of our sessions was that we had bring a friend and you each get a half price session. So the person that referred gets the half price session, and also the referee comes to get a session for half price to see what it's all about. We then had another tier where if that person you brought books on for a term, you get a free session. So it's like it's actually in it will quote unquote make the referrer money to actually be able to bring people in. They're going to save money on this session that they're already really enjoying. So that's a really nice thing. I think the mistake that some people make is they say things like, "Oh, bring a friend. They can try it for free, or they can they can come and visit during an open day." And and it's like people will tell their friends, but it doesn't incentivize them to tell their friends. So it's really nice to have a referral framework where actually you pay for them to get you another customer. And I think this is another great thing. We've talked so much about pricing on this podcast and previous podcasts we've done, but this is a really good one for having that expendable income so that you have that money spare to actually, I've seen some great deals. It's like bring a friend along and I'll give you £20 cash. I've got money in my pocket. They're going to turn up to the session. I will give you 20 quid for bringing this friend along. And anything that encourages people to do that is really, really good. So that's one is the referrals. The other one I think is really good if you can't use social media is affiliates. So actually working out what businesses local to you could bring you customers in one way or another. So again, another example from the forest schools I'm working at the minute is a local nursery down the road, which has its own kind of, it's not a forest school, but they have outdoor learning. They came to visit us because they have parents asking them where their kids can go next when they graduate from nursery and they're at
Yeah.
that age. And instantly that's an affiliate relationship. And also, we only work with toddlers 1 or 2 days a week at our forest school. So if the parents want more, we can say, hey, you should check out that lovely nursery down the road. We've been there and it's really cool. So it's a nice sort of two-way symbiotic thing. And I think that works in a lot of ways. Anything that's like an adjacent business or something that is very complementary to what you do is a really good thing. So anything kind of childcare or equipment for kids or anything like that is a really nice way to get those referrals. And actually, a bit like paying your customers to get you new customers, you can do it with affiliates as well. So you're going to say to your affiliates, if you send people to us, I'll give you money, or I'll give you credit, or I'll give you money off this thing. Or maybe if you send me people, I'll send you people, whatever it might be, like a back and forth relationship. What else would I do if I didn't have social media? It's so tricky, isn't it? Because social media is such a huge part of everything that
Yeah.
we do. But like you say, you're at the whims of the algorithms. Unless you're paying to advertise on social media, you are at the mercy of these algorithms. At the minute, I'm running a naming competition for my new forest school community that I'm putting on a platform called school.com. And I'm doing all my marketing for that within my Facebook group that I run. We've got 11.3 thousand members, and the most reach I had on any one of my posts was 1,000. So
Yeah.
there's
Just
10,000 people in that group who haven't even seen that I'm making a community. It's crazy. So in a way, not being able to use social media is yeah, you could save a lot of effort in that way. I think all the old school marketing methods still work really well, especially in communities. So things like posters and flyers, um, and yeah, advertising in local businesses and local groups and things like that. Maybe if you can't use social media, you could find access to other things like forums or WhatsApp chats or things like that you can get into. Like, for home ed, there's a lot of local community groups and things like that.
some bits and
Um,
pieces of there's often a local newsletter or something going or mailing list going around for home educators. So
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
Finding anything like that. And actually making a mailing list, having a newsletter for your forest school business could be a good option if you can't use social media as well. Actually just marketing to people by email. I know a lot of people that do that very, very successfully.
Yeah.
You do it really well with your mailing list. And I know a lot of forest school businesses that if they send an email to their mailing list the night before, they get 6 or 7 bookings for the next day or things like that.
Yeah,
And I
that
think
was
yeah,
that was kind of my first thought coming at it was like, okay, mailing list, but and run a lead magnet, something to get people
yeah,
onto the mailing list. But there I was still coming up against, well, you still need a way for people to find the lead magnet in the first place.
yeah,
So I think getting on any social media platform if you can and just using it to kickstart the machine. The idea, I'd say, with all marketing is to move towards traffic that you own in
yeah,
marketing terms.
100%.
So
Yeah.
mailing lists, WhatsApp groups, messenger groups, basically things that are independent of the platform, deciding how many people you can reach is a really good place to be because this is not something new that Facebook's doing, or it's not new to the whole world of social media or anything. There have always been, as the known slaps, where suddenly your reach gets cut in half or in half
Yeah.
again, because in the end they've got to make money through advertising,
Yeah.
and so they're going to throttle reach up until the point where people start leaving the platform, in which case they might bring it back and increase it.
Yeah.
But they want you to reach just enough people that you stay on the platform or get pushed towards paid advertising.
Yeah.
But really
Definitely.
the key is to get people onto a website that you own, a mailing list that you own and run, and if you can, something like a WhatsApp group where you have direct contact.
Yeah. And I think while we're on the subject of lead magnets, I think the best lead magnet for a forest school is an open day or a woodland party, however you want to name it. But basically, you hold the space in your woods for the day or for a couple of hours, and you run a really exciting, fun, free, safe forest school session for people to come and try. And you take their contact information in return. That's the key bit is you have to take something. You get their email address, you get their phone number, whatever it might be, and then you contact them that way. And I don't know, this person, can't use Facebook, so I don't want to talk about social media too much. I don't know the kind of the context of them not being able to use it. But if there was any way that they could get on it again at a later date, or they could use a different platform, like you say, whether it's YouTube or TikTok, people are marketing businesses through Snapchat now, Instagram. Instagram might be hard because it's Meta as well. I don't know how that works. LinkedIn maybe as well. It's not so good for parents, but it is good for professionals and. Um, you might then be able to contact other local professionals that could in turn market what you're doing. Who knows? But that would be a really good aspect. And I would say to the person that asked the question as well, the best book on advertising is $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozy. If they read that, there's going to be something in there that they can do from the different one-to-one methods of marketing, like warm outreach and cold outreach, to actually doing paid advertising in different places, whether it's leaflets or paper or advertising on other platforms. If you can't use the content side, the social media side, there's still other ways. And I think that the main two actually that I'd be looking at is referrals and affiliates. So finding a way for your customers to bring you more customers and to affiliate with other local businesses to bring people in. It's a huge topic. And I still in the background, we talked about this. It must be 18 months ago now, but I am still working on a forest school marketing course. It is coming. It's just taking a long time, but I really want to do a training course on it. It might be one of the first courses that I actually put into my new school community that I'm starting, because I think there's a huge need for knowledge about marketing and also proven marketing strategies for forest schools because it's the nichest of niches. It's there's so much kind of intricate stuff going on with the marketing of forest schools, and it's a fascinating topic.
Yeah. On just going back to lead magnets really quickly, the open day, you're right, that is the best way. Everyone knows there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's expectation, and actually running those open days at the start of the year really helped move things along massively. Me, the stuff that I'm playing around because I've got a few different lead magnets. You've probably heard about them on YouTube and whatever. But the three that I would look at. So one I've just put out to my mailing list as a thank you for mailing list, thank you for being a part of it, is a little tree and plant ID guide. So it was just really simple, like little picture of a silver birch tree, quick description of what it looks like, quick history and uses, and then moving on to the next thing. So nothing massive, but just a kind of like, hey, do you want to look out for these five trees? Or these five mushrooms or these birds or whatever. So that's one. Another one would be a quick tip activity guide. So things to do in the local area or five things you can do outdoors with your child.
Mm.
Something that's quite easy and low budget. So hopefully they'll go out and they'll make themselves leaf crowns and whatever. And then when they have made leaf crowns, they'll go, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll go to forest school where we can actually go further than this.
Awesome. Yeah, and
So
I
yeah,
think
it's all like kind of bringing that back to getting people inside a circle that you can then talk to and then you can have a proper conversation with, and eventually down the line, hopefully they'll come to your sessions.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then this idea of owning your marketing materials that you talked about then, I think cannot be overstated because, like you say, if this person's been banned from Facebook for whatever reason, it could happen in an instant. This is one of the reasons that I'm starting my new community because my Facebook group is great, but Facebook groups can just disappear. They all the
Yeah.
time they do. If Facebook sees some dodgy activity in there, or maybe a particular scam turns up, they can just shut it down. And they're allowed to do that because it's their platform. So
Yeah, and
having having
it would,
control of your own platform is good.
I mean, it's not that far removed that they could just go, oh, we see that one of the pictures you have on your group site involves someone holding a knife, and then
Yeah,
just like gone.
yeah,
And then you have to spend 3 months talking with various different customer service reps to try and get it back,
mm,
and they have no obligation to reinstate you. Stuff like that can and does happen.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Is there any more questions, or is that the last one?
That was the last one. That
Wow. Do you
was
have any questions from your practice at the moment?
Well,
Putting you on the
the big
spot.
one was I mean I was very much hitting the one-to-one pricing. So I'm currently trying to develop that and trying to make that I'm resetting my prices because you know what it's difficult getting it right the first time, but pricing is elastic to a certain degree. What I'm trying to work out exactly how elastic it is, and I think the
Mm,
only way to work that out is a little bit of that trial and error and pitch your price and go, let's work. I mean the pricing that I adjusted as a result of our consultation at the start of the year now, that allowed me to bring in an assistant, and
incredible.
that has changed my life. I mean, I ran a whole session yesterday, it's coming up to Halloween, pumpkin theme, and I was just going to do pumpkin carving. One of the parents said, "Hey, can we cook the pumpkin as well?" Like, okay. If someone asks to do something, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to see if I can make it
Yeah.
happen. So we had all of the usual free play stuff. We had the hammocks and swings out. We had tarps and ropes so they could do all sorts of things. We had the mud kitchen, all of that stuff. Then we had pumpkin carving, so everyone got a pumpkin and they were carving it. Then we took out the pulp, separate the pulp from the seeds. We roasted the seeds with cinnamon and sugar
Mm,
in a big Dutch oven. We then cooked a whole big batch of pumpkin soup with chopping all the veggies for that and mix it all up. And we had to light the fire, cook it all. And that would not have been possible without an assistant because there were
no.
just so many things happening, and every child and family in there was supported and helped. And it was a completely different session. And I mean, I would probably still be there this morning tidying up if I'd been doing it on my own.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And it was only raising the pricing that has allowed me to do that. And so I'm constantly reevaluating because now that's a massive cost, bringing in another person.
It's the
And
biggest always.
pricing has got to reflect that
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, I've got to make enough to keep doing this because as we were talking about earlier, if I have to go out and get a quote unquote real job because forest school isn't paying enough to pay the bills, then there's a lot of people that I won't be helping.
Mm.
That's where a lot of my mindset and thinking is at the moment, getting those prices right, building out pricing, particularly for now that I'm almost qualified as a therapeutic practitioner, so advanced wilderness therapeutic practitioner. That's tricky because it's like, okay, I'm going to schools. Schools are willing to pay the 350 odd for just me, excluding all the equipment and site hire and everything else.
Yeah.
But at a qualified rate or even I have an option to go on to become a level five therapist. It's like,
Wow.
okay, who's going to pay therapist rates?
Yeah.
Chances are there's someone, but what is a therapist rate? And then going through the whole process, almost you almost end up having a conversation with yourself in your head if you don't have someone else to have this conversation with. Where you're like, well, wouldn't it be nice if I earned this much? And then you're like, but that's so much. I go, wouldn't that be excluding people? What if people say no? And it's like it's
Yeah. You
having
get
that
stuck.
process in your head, and I think every forest school leader in some degree has this kind of war in their heads where it's like, I want to help as many people as possible, but oh, that feels so scary at pricing.
Yeah. And
And
I think
until
it is, I was going to
until
say
you
it
change your
is,
prices, and then suddenly it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I went from say 40% booked last year, changed my pricing, almost doubled the pricing, and I'm booked with a waiting list.
unbelievable. That's amazing. It makes me so happy. And I was going to say as well that on that token of like yeah, kind of the internal dialogue that you have doing forest school, I think it is an extremely lonely profession being a forest school leader. And I think if you don't have someone to bounce ideas off and mirror back to you that approval and that like someone tell you actually you're doing a good job, you can end up in such a downward spiral of thinking that session was rubbish and that activity was rubbish and the kids hated it and the parents are angry with me for charging so much and then when you get that feedback you go, oh thank goodness, it actually is, this is going really well. But it's such a lonely profession that you end up always having these like the angel and the devil on your shoulder kind of discussions all the time. So it's such an accurate kind of yeah depiction.
Yeah. You've got to find your community, and I'm lucky enough that first of all I get to have conversations like this with incredible people like you. But also same time I have a mastermind. So there's a couple bushcraft instructors that I kept on running into in sessions that kind of are in a similar place to me, where it's like they're trying to build beyond just a forest school and actually
Yeah.
looking to have a kind of wider ecosystem. So I was like, what if we get together and have a mastermind? So once a month we get together over Zoom. Everyone brings in a particular struggle. We chat about it. We offer each other advice on moving forward because we all kind of get it because we're in the space. We're not massively removed from each other in terms of
Yeah.
what we're offering. So, and everyone is slightly more advanced in a different area. So I've got the mastermind. And then I've also got the therapeutic sessions at the moment that I run. I run them as a team with two other forest school leaders. And we spend a lot of our setup time just recapping the last week and going, okay, I tried raising the prices for this group and I don't know whether it's working out and or
Mm.
talking about pensions and about how most forest leaders are going to end up pensionless because we're just not bringing enough in to be able to meet the bills, never mind pay into a pension pot. And
Yeah.
we can't. put the world to rights, but having that community has
Huge.
helped massively.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Excellent. What a great chat.
Talking about community, do you want to plug yours? Where do people go to find more about this up and coming community and all the support and everything else?
Yes, I'll give you a quick rundown on that. So it's yet to be named. The working title at the moment is just Forest School Support, which is the name of my business. But I am in the middle of a huge naming competition. So if you are in the Forest School Assistance and Support group, probably by the time this podcast is out, we'll be voting on the names. So I've asked the community to come forward. I've also asked ChatGPT. ChatGPT came up with some belters of names, so really, really good. So we're going to be voting on what we're going to call it. I want it to be something that all the community wants it to be called. It's on a platform called school.com, which you can have a look at, school.com, SKOOL. And it's a platform for people with enthusiasm and passions for unusual things to build communities around them. That's the brief of the business. And it's going to be a paid group that you can pay into on a monthly basis or an annual basis. And it's a space where we will have discussion. We'll have 3 to 4 live weekly online sessions. We'll also have monthly sessions. There's space in there for courses and online classes and workshops to be delivered. There's a calendar of events that we can book into. And there's just space to get one-to-one support and message and ask questions. And it's going to be a really amazing group. And essentially, if I was to give you a very, very quick rundown of what's going to be on offer every month, we're going to have a live training webinar with me on a topic that the group requests, the community requests. So I'm going to do at least a 1 hour training every month on something that the group needs help with. Then I'm going to also get a guest facilitator in every month to deliver a training on whatever their specialism or their modality is within Forest School. And then I'm going to have every week, we're going to have Sunday Scaries planning on a Sunday night. We're going to have Friday night reflection where we check in on the week and review what's happened. And every week we're going to have body doubling. So any admin work that needs doing, any reports that need writing, any planning, I'm going to be holding space on Zoom for people to come and work productively with others. And then there's going to be other things happening. So we're going to have celebrating our successes and taking our wins. And we're also going to have consultation clinics. So I'm going to sit on Zoom like me and Bracken are now, and you can log in anytime within the allotted time of the clinic and bring your question to me, and I will answer it. We'll work it through a bit like we've done on here. And I'm also going to do a fortnightly check-in where actually we just sit therapeutically on Zoom, and it's an opportunity for people to share and to reflect on how they are, how they're doing, what's been hard that week, talk about the things we're struggling with, because I think that's really, really important. I want to hear about the hard run-ins we've had with parents, the tricky situations that have happened at Forest School. Let's talk about the hard stuff too. And then also, I am in the process of training to be a breathwork facilitator. So we're going to have some breathwork in there as well, because I think that's a really cool thing that is very complementary to Forest School. So that's all going to happen. And yeah, I'd love you to be a part of it. The best place to hear about it is Forest School Assistance and Support on Facebook. If you are not on Facebook, send me a contact, forestschoolsupport.com is how you'll find me. And I will send you all the details. We're not launching yet, but we are launching. I'm looking at the date down the corner of my screen, maybe the 1st of November, but it might be later in November. But it's launching soon, and I think it's going to be a very helpful resource for people to get motivated, get confident, get inspired, and hopefully make Forest School easier, because that's what I'm all about doing.
Fantastic. Well, if you guys liked seeing this Q&A format with the two of us hitting some questions, then do let us know, and we can hopefully make it somewhat of a regular thing if we can both
Yeah,
find time to
yeah,
in our busy schedules. And as a quick note, we've also got Tarps and Knots Masterclass relaunching. It should have already relaunched by the time this podcast is. So if you're looking to level up your forest school knots and tarps knowledge and build 6-minute tarps, then do check that out. That, thanks, Asa, and
thank
thank you
you.
guys, and we'll catch you all next time.